Hi, my name's Bruce. If you didn't already know that, you're probably on the wrong channel, as this one is only intended to keep friends and family up to date with what I'm doing during my retirement here in Indonesia. It's Friday evening. Let's see if we can spot what's changed down here. We've still got plenty of cement there to work with. Plenty of sand. Bricks. Yeah. So, by the look of those, by the look of those formwork bits up there, I'd say that we've got a top rail ring beams loaded, and a diagonal down from the house to the front along there is loaded also, by the look of the cement leaking out. I used to have a pile of gravel here I could walk down, but I've used it up. So I'll come across here and step down. That's better. Right. Yes, I gave him an eye bolt to install up there as a tie point for where the electric cable comes in. So that's embedded in the concrete pillar, and I guess that bit of pipe there is for where the cable will go through the wall. Back ring beam, south wall ring beams also filled at the top, up the top. So they've made the canal nice all the way along here, along the back of the house to the end, and then it just goes off into the drain down to the creek back there. So the top ring beam is fully loaded all the way around. I haven't looked at the tops of the walls inside, but I suspect they've been loaded as well. Now I can see the wall between the lounge room and the kitchen's got the ring beam filled on top. Still a big pile of sand at the front of Karana's house. Well, the path is dry, so I'm not at high risk of going and getting the weather station down. Okay, ladder's set up in place. I've blown that out with the air compressor. Those big ants weren't what was in it, they had small ants. Now I go and put it up and see whether we get any signal. Well, there it is in its new home, but the base station hasn't connected to it yet. Those support sticks will come off at some stage. I'm going to go and fiddle with the base station and see whether I can get it to connect. Behind that vertical pipe from the T there, that's where the reporting base station is. The one inside is non-reporting. It's just a spare one that came from Melbourne. I think my problem is I now have too much metal work between the base station and the weather station. Now the weather station's at about that level, the other side of the water tank. In there is 2 layers of reinforcing mesh, so it's trying to talk through a bit of steel, I think. So what I really need to do is go higher with that. How much higher I don't know, but what I'm thinking is if I make a version of that with a longer cord on it, I could park it up much higher. It's in the plastic bag, so it shouldn't get wet as such. I shall have a bit of a think. Well, I extended the power cable on the weather station now, so I can put much further up the wall. I'm going to see if I can jam it that way into another plastic bag to try and make sure that we don't get rain incursion. Okay, so given where it is now, where it's sitting, and the amount of wires dangling down, I can go at least 2 metres higher if I need to. So I could just about, well, I could go up to the underside of that horizontal beam up there, but I'm going to go and get some cable ties so I can tie it to that mesh, I think. Well, there you go, clear line of sight. That's the weather station just to the right of that column above the black wall. The only thing it's got between it and the weather station is that mesh, which, given that the base station inside was connecting to the weather station at times through two layers, well, at least one layer of that mesh in the generator enclosure there, that isn't the problem. So I'm suspecting that the weather station itself might have gone bad, which would be a bit of a bugger because that's going to cost a bit to replace. The indoor base station's established contact, but that's not the one reporting to underground. At least I've got a monthly rainfall total on there. I can go away and plug into my spreadsheet, make it work out a bit better. Okay, it's finally come online. Let's hope it stays online. Well, it's Saturday evening, as was using an angle grinder behind me. I've got my gravel ramp back here to walk down. Let's go and have a look. So the ring beams around the top have been decloaked, and we have the end gables on now. That's interesting. The reinforcement goes up to the top of that one, goes up beyond the end of that one. I wonder if they're planning to put a post up there, or whether that's just going to get cut off later. But now let's see what else has been done. It's hard to identify if anything extra has been done here today. On my drawing, this wall on the front of the veranda here came across about ½ metre to provide a bit more weather shelter to that. But I guess that's not needed if it's under. Actually, that's not under the veranda roof. I might have to point that one out to Johnny. You can sort of see there's the inner bound of the structure there, and then there'll be more formwork on the outside of this to provide an outer wall to a concrete structure that's going to be the rain gutter. It's Sunday afternoon. Azra's drilled himself this ramp down here at the rice drying area, so he can get the truck down onto there to easier pick up and drop off bags. I wonder if the chickens have had a dance in it yet. They're bound to have down the other end there. That sure looks like a chicken track to me. Goes up and curves up. It's amazing how they find it. Still haven't progressed with capping the well, but maybe they want easy access to it at the moment or something. We have our gable on with the reinforcement cages on the angles and loaded with concrete. So that'll probably be peeled off tomorrow, that formwork. And they're continuing with boxing up the rain gutter. From that you can guess that there's been more rainfall, but the weather station works part-time. So my next move is to change the batteries in them again. And if that doesn't help, then I've got to look at whether the other base station, the non-reporting base station, has better connectivity to it. If it does, I'll make it the reporting one. So all those are probably loaded now. We've got any welding cable left up there. When we go inside, you can see those vertical stripes in the walls there. That's basically the depth indicators for rendering, which they've done up here. So there's going to be an outlet, power outlet, where that mark is there, and there's going to be more power with those two blocks of bobbin hammered on, and that one over there, and one over behind the bucket, and one over there. That's showing where the electrical connections go. This is for the switches for lights. Switches for lights. Power outlets. And cable TV outlet. Power outlet. Power and cable TV. Yep, there's another power outlet over there. There should be a one up there, but he seems to have missed that one for now. I think that's a power outlet. Okay, what they've done is they've put the AC on the south wall instead of the north wall. My thinking was that the heat exchangers will be under the veranda, providing them with shelter, but these guys seem to have different ideas. So you can see from the thickness of that depth indicator, by the time they do that on the inside and the outside, the wall ends up about 15-16 centimetres thick. I finally figured out what these are for. These are for the north side of the rain gutter. So that'll be this side of all those metal bits. And in a few minutes since I took that earlier video, you can see there's now an additional track that way and one back that way. So they really do love their wet concrete advances. And that ain't hard on work, polishing some lines and line factory. So we have the eastern gable fully concreted. And we're starting to weld the east-west bars onto this arrangement that they have up here for the rain gutter. Again, they leave the welder earth clamp and electrode clamp out for it to raid on. Beats me. Now we've got to start on the under lid formwork. So that's for the electrical cable coming down to go for the AC to be installed there. I'm not sure that pipe's big enough for the AC hoses to go through. Not my problem. So that's another electrical conduit tube. That's the west side of the east end gable. Kind of feel I might need vents in the roof space, because with a black roof it's going to be stinking hot in the roof space. But yeah, it's coming along. We've done our part of the canal, and it looks like we're doing civic improvement for the neighbours' part of the canal as well. And as you can see, the chickens found the top of that to dance on. Out in front of Piranha's house, the sand pile's diminished, but now we have more rocky fill. Still plenty of gravel over there for more concrete. It continues. We haven't changed the batteries in the weather station today for ones which I knew were new. The previous ones were just ones that were rattling around the bottom of my box of batteries. And since I did that because it was only talking part-time, you can see the gaps in the recordings there. And you can see that the top one there, the red and green, I can't see from this angle. That was temperature and dew point. The one below it is wind direction, wind speed. So the anemometer was working a lot longer than the thermometer was. So it was near the end of that, I think, when I well, from the look of that, it's reporting again now, but not the temperature. I think it's reporting wind speed, because it's currently 5 o'clock. If I look at the scale here, yeah, so that's 5:04 PM was its last report there, and it's 5:10, so it's almost up to date. So it's just missing the temperature. So I'm beginning to think it might be the weather station itself that's going bad, and that's not good because that's going to cost me money I don't really want to spend at the moment with the house construction going on. That's a bugger. Started on the roof framing using this stuff. These are the brackets that goes on top of the walls that the roof trusses get bolted to, and there's the start of the roof trusses. This bit hasn't changed a lot since yesterday. We've just got clearer linkage across from there and there. And you can see the depth bars for the rendering along the south side and the east side, and some rendering it started at the top. Got our formwork up for the front gutter by the look of it, and the well has its cap with manhole. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to aim the water across from there to go in the well, but I think that's part of the plan. Okay, I wonder what this is made of. Draining water away somehow. And then we have the start of the depth bars for the rendering on the west wall. So you start with a little knob like that, get them all aligned, then do the vertical bars between them, and then use those to do the whole surface. Rendering in the hallway. That side's done. Okay, so electric comes down and then goes across. Well, look at it. Yeah, it's Wednesday evening. That lower stack is diminishing. That stack's increasing. Well, that front rain gutter has been loaded by the look of it. And you can see the plastic tube there. That's their water level. So they've just been using that to make sure they got fall from this end to that end, I'm sure. As I said a little bit before in this video, they use those dots that were on there to establish their verticals, and they use that to establish their plane for the wall. They get very flat walls that way actually. It's like they've started concreting the front veranda. I'll have to dig those posts out, crack them out, whatever. Bamboo posts, but kind of looks like a concrete slurry in there. And there's a string line running horizontally along there, which, yeah, I'll have to see if I can get in at the end instead. Okay, I guess those string lines are there to establish the thickness of the render, which looks like it's going to be fairly thick on this side. And inside this east end room we have a bit of concrete on the floor. And I figured out why they put the AC fittings on the south side rather than where I'd drawn them on the diagram on the north side. I hadn't accounted for condensate from the air conditioning. So now the condensate will go out on the south side where it's not going to bother anybody. Whereas if it had come out on the north side, it would have been on the front veranda. So, yeah, okay. They understood better than me there. But, not going to wander in further there. I'm sure there's just more rendering that's been done. So we'll come back and have another look tomorrow night. The roof truss pile has grown. Still have plenty of steel over here though. Some of the fills come to here, and more of the fills come to the west end. You can see the progress since yesterday. Yesterday we had the vertical bars, now we've got a fair bit of rendering on the west end. So not sure quite whether they're using it as a ramp to walk on or what. You can see along the top there they've got the little metal brackets installed at this end, and then they've got the rest of them just sitting there ready to be installed. Same here on the north side of the west end. So all those brackets have been installed on the north side if needed. So they're at the stage of installing the conduit for cables as required, and then rendering over those conduits. Still lots of rendering to be done, so there's still lots of cement there. But this project is nothing like the quality of my shed construction. I think that was 3,500 sacks like that. It's Friday just after 11 AM, and I've moved these 2 stacks of roof trusses that were here last night. So let's see what they've been up to. Well, there you go. When it happens fast. I'm standing out on this light coloured concrete. I'm getting a lot of reflection, and it's warm. It feels like it was over 42 on the weather station when I left. So there's multiple guys working at the west end, placing fill and trampling it in. Some rendering going on and some dressing up of the well. So there's rendering on the front going on while there's these still going up, and it looks like there's rendering going on inside as well by the flash of a trail. And these things are probably getting rather warm out in the sun too. The temperature's come down a little since I went down there 15-20 minutes ago, so it feels like under 40 now. Yeah, weather stations still part-time on temperature, seems to keep track of wind and rain. I think the most important one for me is the rain, because when it comes to temperature I know, yep, it's hot or hotter. Seldom is it cool, never for me. Yeah, so anyway, this will do for this week's upload.